Welcome to the Space Podcast series, Stories of Change. This is an AI-narrated podcast series inspired by authentic curriculum redesign cases. In each episode, we explore how educators are rethinking teaching and learning to build stronger connections between universities, students, and society.
Hello, and welcome. Today, we're exploring a curriculum redesign journey that began with a surprisingly simple question about doctoral supervision and gradually evolved into something much broader, a shared space for community-engaged research, collaboration, and knowledge exchange. I'll be speaking with one of the redesign case holders about how a planned professional development module transformed into a much wider reflection on relationships, access to knowledge, and the importance of helping people find one another across universities and communities. When people think about curriculum redesign, they often imagine creating new courses or training modules. But your project seems to have started by questioning whether a course was even the right answer in the first place. What sparked that reflection?
Yes, that's true. The starting point was actually a very practical concern around doctoral supervision and community-engaged research. We kept seeing students who wanted to work directly with communities on issues like housing, health, or climate. But supervisors often felt uncertain about how to support that kind of work responsibly within academic structures.
So the challenge wasn't necessarily a lack of interest, but more a question of confidence and connection.
Exactly. At first, we thought the solution might be to design a professional development module for supervisors, something structured, measurable, and easy to implement. But as conversations developed, we realized the issue wasn't simply about providing more information. Much of the knowledge already existed in different organizations, networks, and community engagement spaces. The real problem was that people often didn't know where to find one another.
So in many ways, it became less about filling a knowledge gap and more about creating connections?
Yes, precisely. We started recognizing that there was a kind of matchmaking gap between people who had experience in community engagement and those who needed support but didn't yet know where to look. That shifted the whole direction of the redesign process.
And I understand the project changed shape several times as those conversations continued.
Yes, absolutely. At one stage, we moved from the idea of a formal module towards developing a practical toolkit. But then discussions with colleagues and community engagement specialists pushed us even further. We began asking whether the real need was not a course or a toolkit at all, but a shared space where students, supervisors, researchers, and community partners could actually find and support one another.
So the redesign gradually became more relational and community-oriented?
Very much so. Community organizations also helped reshape our thinking. They reminded us that engagement often begins informally, sometimes simply through conversations, networking, or small opportunities for people to connect around shared concerns. That insight helped us imagine something more flexible and collaborative than a traditional academic training structure.
And that's where the idea of a living knowledge commons emerged?
Exactly. The idea became creating a shared space that could support matchmaking, dialogue, and collaboration across universities, communities, and professional networks. Not just a resource repository, but a kind of meeting space where people could learn from one another and develop community-engaged research relationships over time.
I imagine redesigning something so open-ended also brought uncertainty and challenges along the way.
Definitely. One of the biggest challenges was sustainability. Asking how something relational and community-based could continue beyond project funding. There were also important questions about equality, trust, and power dynamics. How do universities genuinely meet communities on equal footing, rather than treating engagement as a one-way process?
And how did the team begin navigating those questions?
Dialogue became absolutely central. The redesign depended on listening carefully to students, supervisors, researchers, and community partners, and allowing the project to evolve gradually through those conversations. The co-learning environment also played a very important role because it created opportunities to reflect with colleagues facing similar challenges in different contexts.
Looking back now, what do you feel has been the most important lesson from the redesign journey?
Probably that meaningful curriculum innovation sometimes begins by resisting the urge to settle too quickly on the first solution. In our case, every time we paused and listened more carefully, the project became less about delivering information and more about creating relationships, trust, and shared spaces for collaboration.
A thoughtful reminder that education is not only about transmitting knowledge, but also about creating the conditions for people, communities, and ideas to genuinely find one another.
This story is based on real experiences from curriculum redesign projects run under the Erasmus Plus Space Project. More information about the cases and the Space Project can be found on the website www.community-engagement.eu.